everyone. Welcome. Just wait a few minutes before we get started. And all of the cameras are turned off on my end just because we are going to be recording this. So that way, if nobody wants their image or likeness shown, I don't have to worry about it. You can feel free to unmute your mic if you'd like to chime in at any moment or type anything in the chat as well. So we'll wait just maybe one more minute as folks trickle in, and then we'll jump right into today's topic. And welcome everyone to the very first open session. It's very exciting. First one. You're all the very first people to join our open session. So thank you so much for being here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just jump right in with this evening's topic. Again, thank you for joining me this evening, for making space in your evening with, I know there are so many of us working on Zoom all day now, so really thank you for making the time to be here and to participate in our very first open sessions with Harmonic Changes Therapy Services. We're very excited to be launching this for the next year. We're going to have different clinicians jumping in with different topics. So please keep checking our social media to see what's coming next. It's really exciting that we're having these free workshops for anyone and everyone who wants to attend. So let's go ahead and jump right into today's topic, which is music is for everyone. I wanted to start our open sessions just as sort of an introduction to who we are, what we do as music therapists, as a jumping off place for all of the amazing presentations to come. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share my presentation with everyone. And again, if you have any questions or comments at any time, you can use the little hand raise button, or you can just unmute yourself and jump in. Feel free to do that. So music is for everyone. We're going to be discussing the clinical and non-clinical uses of music, what clinical means, all of those wonderful things. All right, so first I'll give an introduction to myself. My name is Laura Fonseca. I am a board certified music therapist. I also have done training as a neurologic music therapist, and I'm the clinical director at Harmonic Changes. I am based in Tongva Town, which is more known as Los Angeles, and I am going to be starting off our open sessions. So that's a little background on myself. So I thought we'd just start with, what is music therapy? So music therapy is defined by our professional organization, the American Music Therapy Association, as the clinical and evidence-based use of music within a therapeutic relationship by a credentialed professional holding an MTBC. So what that means is that we're using music in a very specific way to target specific goals, and that there's a whole training process behind all of that, and the way in which we're going to enter sessions and interact with people through music. So usually when I introduce myself and I say I'm a board certified music therapist, and then answer the what is music therapy question, this is sort of the next natural question that comes up, which is, what is the clinical use of music? So to kind of dive in a little bit deeper, I just want to briefly talk about clinical music, or clinical use of music. So using music clinically is having the framework and knowledge to understand how music works in such a way that we're able to then take that information and apply it to meet specific goals and objectives for our clients. So that can be in a myriad of forms that we can kind of go into a greater detail later. And usually the next question after, what is clinical music, is what type of music is clinical? Like, what is clinical music? What do you use in sessions? And for that, there is a great and a terrible answer, which is it depends on the person. It depends on the situation. We're looking at all the factors. We're taking into consideration what we've learned about our clients, what we know about their preferences, and we're taking all of that into consideration when we choose music. So any and all music is clinical, or can be clinical. So some examples of clinical applications of music include when an MTBC applies music specifically to support cognitive functions like attention through collaborative music making experience. So more specifically, it could be using a certain music stimuli. So let's say, let me find, it's not a music therapy presentation without instruments. Let's say that I have this shaker here and I'm playing a piece of music with the client, and I say, all right, every time you hear this shaker, I want you to play a shaker. And every time you hear these bells, I want you to play the bells. All the while I might be, playing guitar or playing some kind of music, or just playing recorded music that they really enjoy, that's highly engaging. And I might be doing that and having them switch between playing the shaker, playing the bells, based on what they hear when they hear it, and then kind of tracking how many times do they do that successfully, and are they able to increase the number of times that they're able to do that over a period of time. Um, Another example would be supporting a client with soothing music for the purposes of reducing agitation and to decrease their elevated heart rate. So this might be using a highly preferred slow, mellow song for a client who might be experiencing an episode of agitation due to whatever they might be going through in the moment. It could also mean sort of improvising something that starts with where they're at in the moment, a little agitated, closer to how they're moving, how they're interacting with their environment, and then slowly bringing that down to a more peaceful and relaxing improvisation, which I actually just did that today. So that's a great example off the top of my head. And to just decrease an elevated heart rate through that stabilizing, grounding music, and being able to have the tools to be able to know how to do that, to meet a client in the moment, or to provide an alternate mood for a client to latch onto in a given moment. And then a third example would be working in collaboration with a physical therapist to support a client's mobility by applying what we know about rhythm and motor function. So that could literally be providing a stable beat for someone to match their walking cadence to. It could be even adding music to increase the level of difficulty, because if I'm singing along with it, there's multiple things that the person has to process. So those are sort of more clinical applications of music and ways in which music therapists are using music in sessions at any given moment in any given session, and more ways beyond that. So that's kind of what clinical music is, how we use it, what that means when we're talking about using music clinically in sessions for clients as music therapists. But most people in their day-to-day life are not interacting with clinical music. Music isn't being used for a specific goal that has been placed by a treatment team or by a family or by the client themselves. Most of us are using music in our everyday life for recreation and a non-clinical use of, and more non-clinical uses of music. So that could be I like to consider it the intuitive or recreational use of music for support or for fun. As many of us know that music connects with us in some way, and so there's this intuitive nature to how and why we choose to engage with music. And sometimes we know, like, this song makes me feel good and I want to listen to it. And that's a great use of music that still supports us, though not being clinical, but still a beautiful, wonderful representation of why music is so awesome and why music is something that connects us all. So I'd love to pose the question to those of you. You can chat it or you can unmute, whatever you're comfortable with. As a reminder, we are recording. But I'd love to pose the question, how do you use music in your day-to-day? So I'll give you a few minutes to answer that. Anyone use music for fitness? I see. All right, we got some in the chat. See, listening to music at the end of my workday, either relaxing music to help me relax or upbeat music to dance to. Yes, I love that. Great way to use music. And I see high energy music while exercising. Yeah, absolutely. I think that is one of the most universal ways that we as a society currently use music. Ooh, I use music on my commutes. I'm typically an anxious driver, so I always listen to something that calms me, and I listen to it regularly, so it's predictable and stable force in my drive. Yeah, absolutely. I can tell this person might be an MTBC. based on that predictability and stability. That's what we're all about with that predictable use of music. But yeah, I love all of these are great examples of ways that we use music in the day to day. And those might not, again, they're not necessarily clinical ways, but they're ways that are useful and supportive to us. They are ways that we use music to interact with our environment, decompress, de stress, energize ourselves. I know I like to listen to upbeat music before I have a meeting so that I am exuding positive energy and that I'm feeling like nice and motivated and ready to take on whatever that meeting might hold. I listen to some upbeat music before jumping into this presentation myself, which are all, yeah, great ways to use music. Thank you everyone for your chat ins. Is that what it would be called? That's what we'll call it. So I also have some examples of non-clinical uses of music, some of which some of you chatted in, but creating a playlist that connects with certain moods or themes and listening to them to change your mood. So, I mean, if you go on Apple Music, Spotify, any of those, even YouTube, you can type in any mood you want, any feeling, and there is a playlist for that. So that's definitely a great way that many people have used to connect to emotions or to boost their mood or change the way that they're feeling in a given moment, or to pump you up to exercise. And it can actually, if you're listening to certain music while you're exercising, you can actually boost the repetitions that you do because you'll naturally incline to rhythm. And of course, as a music therapist, I'm taking these non-clinical uses of music and applying the clinical. But we'll kind of talk about overlap later, so I'll slow my roll, if as it were. But yeah, playlists and using music to elevate mood is definitely very common non-clinical use of music. And then things like attending a sound bath or music and wellness programs to promote relaxation, meditation, or recreation. Also very common ways to engage in music and auditory stimulation. And then learning to play an instrument for recreation, to inspire creativity as an emotional outlet, any or all of the above. That's a really great thing that many people do. And all of these sort of non-clinical uses of music are, I think, ways that we all know that music has meaning and value. A lot of people I know will have their kiddos start learning to play an instrument at a young age because there's a lot of great research that, you know, learning an instrument helps you with math, it helps you with literacy, it helps you with confidence and all these other great things. So these are sort of like the aspects of how music interacts with our brain that have seeped into our collective knowledge as people, which is one of the most beautiful things as a music therapist, to know that almost everyone engages with music every single day. And there's a reason for that, because there's so many different ways that music can affect our mood, or music can help us to feel accomplishment or relaxed. So again, there are millions of examples, I'm sure, of non-clinical uses for music. But let's kind of talk about that collective understanding that we have of the value of music to us. So a lot of us know that engaging with music in any form can be good for our brain. Again, that goes into that knowledge of like starting a kiddo out playing piano or violin or any instrument to help to make them, I know generally it said that music, what is that, Mozart music makes baby smarter. But it's really just that engagement of our brains. It's really interacting with music supports our brains in such a beautiful way, because of how our brains are. So naturally, it doesn't matter what kind of stimulus it is, music or otherwise, our brains come into contact with it and makes a decision on how we're going to react and respond based on whatever is presented to us. And because music is generally a stimulus that we like and enjoy, our brain uses neuroplasticity to acclimate to a music environment. So whether that's learning an instrument and increasing our fine motor skills because we're playing something over and over again, and so our fine motor skills are being worked and worked and worked, and then we're getting that beautiful auditory feedback, whether it's something like that, um, or whether it's just knowing that, hey, I really like this song, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, as a little kiddo, and saying, oh, I like this song. It makes me feel calm. It makes me feel happy. It reminds me of my friends. It reminds me of my parents or my siblings. That any way that we're engaging with music, our brain is connecting to that and reshaping and making new connections based on all of that. Um, And then another way is that music activates multiple brain regions at the exact same time. So that increases communication between those regions and can actually make communication more efficient. So that was sort of the fine motor thing I was just talking about, is also another example of that, that the more that we're doing that, the more that we're practicing that, our brains are connecting to that, making the transition faster, making the movements faster. This is part of how, our skills increase. You get better at piano because our brains are connecting and allowing our fingers to move more smoothly and more efficiently. And that's all going on at this like cellular level in our brain, which is awesome. And then my favorite of all favorites of anything talking about music and how music affects our brain is that you don't have to be a musician. You don't have to be trained. You don't have to have played. You don't have to forever. You don't have to be a professional. You don't have to know anything about music theory, nothing. If you listen to music, your brain engages with it and it can actually benefit, even just listening to music passively. I remember learning that in school and felt like my mind was blown, because that was just amazing that even just passively listening to music, it's such an engaging experience that we can't help but connect to it, click in, and our brains shift in the process of even listening. And that's just because our brains light up in response to music as a stimulus. All right. I could talk about this for 5 million years, but we'll continue on. So let's talk about some of that overlap between clinical music and non-clinical music. Um, Clinical music may include the same music that's used recreationally, and a lot of time it does. So in general, what we do, and we meet a client, we're assessing their needs, and part of that assessment includes what kind of music they like. And this can be a really powerful way to engage someone in a therapeutic process. Because as I mentioned about our brains, if we're using music that our clients really love and connect to, then they already have a positive association, and that will support them in achieving their goal. So for example, if I happen to be working with someone who's in stroke recovery and they're working on regaining their ability to speak fluently, I might use their favorite song. Maybe their favorite song is Let It Be by the Beatles. And I might use that song to help them let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be, to have that nice pacing and to support them in having a good, good fluency, good pacing, something that's predictable and repetitive, something that is stabilizing and comforting at the same time, knowing that being in recovery from stroke is not only relearning many things, but also the stress and anxiety that comes with relearning many things. So taking all of that into consideration to select songs to support clients, and knowing that what you like recreationally, what a client has used outside of a clinical environment, can be really important to bring into that environment. But on the reverse side of that, also knowing that there are some songs that a client might not want to bring in clinically, and so having the ability to have that connection and understanding too. Um, and then another way that non-clinical and clinical music overlap is that a goal of therapy could even be to support a client in recreational music making for whatever reason it might be. It may be that a client has minimal enjoyment in the activities that they do, and so knowing that music is engaging and stimulating and can really provide a sense of accomplishment and connection, it may be to support a client in exploring what using music for fun looks like, what music in a recreational context looks like for them. So those are just a few, examples of the overlap. Another one, which is actually a service that Harmonic Changes provides that just popped into my mind, is an adapted music lesson. So we provide, and many music therapists provide this service, which is like a hybrid of music therapy and an adapted music and a music lesson. It's sort of a music lesson through a clinical lens. So we're working on musical skills like improving piano performance, increasing repertoire, ear training, but we might be looking at it through the idea of this particular kiddo seems to have the potential or is diagnosed as dyslexic. And so we might use ear training to support them in dyslexia, because there's really good research about how kiddos with dyslexia have a really hard time distinguishing pitches. And so if you can support them in being able to hear different pitches, it can actually support their brain in reading and speaking in a way that promotes their overall, supports them as an overall person. Um, and so we might be using ear training within a session, knowing that it's supporting them musically because it's helping them to hear pitches and tones and be able to create music and write compositions and do all this beautiful stuff, but it's also supporting this other thing in the background. And so that would be one example of an adapted music lesson. It could also be just promoting that sense of accomplishment if we're working with someone who maybe confidence is an area of support, which, like, for all of us, right? Just improving confidence and knowing that the sense of accomplishment that comes with learning a new song or learning a new chord, or playing a scale. Oh my goodness. I'm thinking of a client right now who learned his first scale and was over the moon, beyond over the moon, with this sense of accomplishment. And that can really promote confidence and support, again, someone in their overall holistic well-being. Alrighty. Oh, okay. So when might music be right for someone? Clinical music. So we know that we all connect with music. For the most part, music is this amazing human experience. We, as examples from you who are joining us this evening, have demonstrated, the ways that you use music in your day to day. We all have this connection and sense that, like, music is important. Music can help us in one way or another. But when might it be the right time to consider if you want to make a transition from music in a recreational sense to in a more clinical sense? I think that definitely depends on if there's specific goals, areas that you or someone might be working on. So the clinical use of music implies that there's a goal or focus that an MTBC is intentionally using music to support. So again, it's that intentionality piece. And if you want to support a specific skill on individual or group level, you might be interested to explore the clinical use of music provided by a board-certified music therapist. And to sort of even feel that out more, I have here this list of different goals. So that could be cognitive skills, and those things like attention, executive functioning, cognitive flexibility, which, like, the whole world is currently working on, right, in the pandemic. Um, Memory, executive functioning, those are all kind of different cognitive skills. Social skills, which could be for some individuals, maybe eye contact or greeting and connecting with others, working collaboratively in a group of people. And then motor skills could be fine motor skills, gross motor skills, gait improvement, many things like that, balance, coordination, kind of navigating the world around you, which is sort of a cognitive motor thing, but that goes actually right into sensory processing. So sensory processing, which is, auditory and visual stimulus, how do you connect them and interact with both an auditory and a visual stimulus, or a visual motor thing. So it's just connecting different senses that we have together. Emotional processing could be like identifying emotions, connecting, connecting with another person's emotions, which is also sort of a social skill too. Um, Overall well-being, coping skills fall kind of into that emotional processing. And then communication, which could be, again, working collaboratively with a group. It could literally be more of those specific speech and language processes, fluency, pacing, etc., and more. Those are all just some examples of things that if any of those things sound like, oh, I'd like to specifically think about or target that or work on that, then music, a clinical music approach by a music therapist might be the right fit for you. And kind of talking about clinical use of music, board certified music therapist. I said MTBC a lot of times, but I want to just explain why the MTBC is so important in when you're looking for someone to clinically apply music. So if you're considering finding someone to administer music clinically, it's important to know that they meet the requirements of the Certification Board for Music Therapists. So that is what MTBC guarantees to you. It ensures that they've received a degree in music therapy, they've completed at a minimum 1,200 clinical hours of an internship, and that they've taken a board exam, which demonstrates that they know how to clinically apply music to people of many diagnoses, people without diagnoses, people wanting to target certain goals, all of those things, that they know how to apply that without doing harm. And I think without doing harm is one of the key things to take away. Is, as we know, we all use and interact with music. There are many ways to use and interact with music, but there are also things like becoming overstimulated by music, or music connecting with your emotions, but then maybe you need to get out of that space, and maybe it's continuing to draw you in that way. So how do you kind of reel yourself out of that, and how can someone support you in knowing how to do those things? So I think the key there is that a board certified music therapist understands the clinical applications of music, understands basic principles of psychology and sociology and neuroscience in order to support you and your loved ones with music in a safe environment. So that is my presentation. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to spend a little time answering any questions that you may have. So please go ahead and send any questions in the chat, and we'll take questions for a few minutes. While you're thinking of questions, if you have them, I just want to state again that we all have access to music. We can all use music for in any way that, that we want to support ourselves, and that music therapists don't own music as a concept or an idea or something that you can connect with. That music is for everyone, whether you want to engage in a clinical application of music, or whether you want to engage in a recreational use of music, or using music for wellness for yourself, and whatever that looks like for you. That there's no right or wrong way to engage in music, and that literally music is for everyone. And I want to empower you all to use music. All right, we have a question here. Are there certain instruments that lead to more beneficial clinical outcomes than others? This is a great question that I will do my best to give a concise answer. So it really, again, depends on the individual, their preferences. There are certain instruments like a harp or a piano where you can play more notes simultaneously, and so that can engage more of the brain, which in some instances is great, and you want to do that. And in other instances with other clients might be a little counterintuitive, because maybe their brain is already really excited, and we want to actually inhibit a little bit by reducing the amount of stimulus that we're providing them. So it's really on an individual basis. I think more, rather than in terms of instruments, I think more in terms of concepts of music. So rhythm, pitch, harmony, melody, and think of in what ways can I apply those concepts. And then the instruments, not that they're secondary, um, but it's dependent on what a client likes or dislikes. I have clients that metallic instruments, never, not a, the sound is just too aggressive to their ears, and other clients who metallic instruments all day, every day. Yes, that's what I want. That's what engages me. So it's really dependent on the individual. And I think, again, in consideration to the clinical use of music, um, it's taking in the information that is being provided by the client or the group, and figuring out how to use music or instruments that are most engaging to them, that then can support whatever goal it is that we're looking for. So I hope that answers your question. Do we have any other questions this evening? Okay, here's another one. Who would benefit from music therapy the most? I would say that, again, it's anyone and everyone can benefit from music therapy. It depends on if you have a specific goal and intention that you want to support through music. And so, whether or not you want to do that in a clinical therapeutic setting is based on your own needs, desires, and wants for yourself or your family member or your facility as well. So, great questions. Any other questions this evening? I just remembered we had a question sent in before the program began about using music in conjunction with yoga and art therapy. And if we ever use music in conjunction with yoga and art therapy, was the question. And the answer is yes, absolutely. We've collaborated with many different disciplines, and that has included using music and art in our sessions, as well as in collaboration with other clinicians who are art therapists or yoga therapists, and collaborating that way, either on a session to session basis or more in a multidisciplinary team format where we're all providing sessions for the same group of clients, but may not necessarily be in each other's sessions. But yes, we've absolutely done that. We are open to continuing to do that. So if that's something that you're interested in collaborating with us on, please do send us an email. I'll just pause the. Oh, okay, already. There's another question. Not a question, but it's amazing to learn how music can be used in so many ways, although we may not always even realize it. Definitely have a deeper understanding of how music can benefit a wide range of needs clinically and recreationally. Thank you. Thank you. It's a very nice comment. Thank you. I appreciate you jumping in this evening and taking time to join our open session. And thank you everyone so much for, again, joining us this evening and taking some time to learn a little bit about music therapy, recreational music, just overall why music is amazing and great. And I'm so excited that this was our very first open session. I'm really grateful for all of you who joined us. Thank you so much for christening this event for us. I hope that you join us again next time. You can connect with us on social media and you'll be able to see what open sessions are coming next, what our topics will be, who will be presenting. So please connect with us on social media. It's at Harmonic Changes Therapy Services on all of the social medias. So please find us there. I have this last slide again for more information about who we are, what we do, to join our mailing list, to find our social media, to learn about our team, to learn about services, anything you want to learn about us, that's our website, harmonicchanges.com. You've been a lovely audience. Thank you so much for joining our very first open session, and we hope to see you again. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.